Hey guys, this is Not Lammers Invoked 101. Welcome back, and today we're going to be taking a look at something I didn't think I'd be updating and something I should have updated a long time ago. But today we're going to be taking a look at Darklords. Now, Darklords got some support in Rise of the Duelists, which I got all the stuff for it, but I didn't really mess around with it until recently when we were planning to do an underdog tournament in the Invoked 101 Discord, and then we ended up, I tested Darklords for that tournament, and I actually really ended up enjoying them. So, so that's why I ended up picking up some of the cards for this and redoing it. Anyways, with all that said, we're going to move the extra deck and spells and traps out of the way, and we're going to get right down into this deck profile. And since it's been a while since we talked about Darklords, I'm going to go a little bit more in depth with this than normal. So starting us off, we have three of probably the most important Darklord, and that's Darklord Ixchel. Ixchel has the ability to discard herself as well as another Darklord card to draw 2 new cards. She also has the ability that is shared with most of the new Darklord cards, which is that you can pay 1,000 and, is it target one? Pay 1,000, target a Darklord spell or trap in your graveyard, apply that target's effect, then shuffle the target into the deck. You can only use each effect of Ixchel once per turn. You can only special summon Ixchel once per turn. Now, the effect, the once per turn, the hard once per turn, and hard once per summon, I guess, hard special summon once per turn, that's on all of the newer Darklords, and so is that pay 1,000 and shuffle, copy the effect and shuffle it back in the deck. So I'll just say it's the Darklord effect if that Darklord has it. But Ixchel is really cool because she does do the discard and draw, which is really nice for this deck. Next up, we have my favorite one, which is Darklord Nastin. Darklord Nastin has the ability to discard 2 other Darklord cards to special summon himself, which is incredibly useful. And then he has the Darklord effect, and then, only special summon him once per turn. But yeah, really cool, really useful, and really good to put him out. Now we're playing 3 of one of the older Darklords, and that is Superbia. Superbia says, when this card is special summoned from the graveyard, you can target a fairy-type monster in your graveyard, except Superbia, special summon that target. So, something to know, there's a hair in my mouth, but something else to know about Darklord Superbia is that there is a Darklord Monster Reborn spell, and the way that Superbia works is, if you special summon him off the spell, he'll trigger. But if you special summon him off of, like, let's say you copy the spell with Nastin to special summon Superbia, Superbia won't trigger because it's a win effect. And the last thing that happened was the card getting shuffled back. So, it is slightly unfortunate that that's how that works, but Superbia is still really good for this strategy. Next up, we have all our one-of Darklords. We're playing an older one, which is Zerato. Zerato says, if you have 4 or more dark monsters with different names in your graveyard, you can tribute summon this card by tributing 1 dark monster. And then it says you can send 1 dark monster from your hand to the graveyard, destroy all monsters your opponent controls once per turn during the end phase. If this effect was activated this turn, destroy this card. He has 2,800 attack, 2,300 defense. He's level 8, so it's really good for making rank 8s with these 2. I believe Nurgle, the next one we're going to look at, is also level 8, so lots of level 8s in this deck. But the main reason we're playing Zerato is for that nuke effect, because you can just special summon this off of almost anything, and then do the nuke, and then overlay him or link him away. Next up, for another one-of, we are playing Darklord Nurgle, who Nurgle is kind of interesting, and I like him as a one-of. Again, he's another level 8 to compare with Superbia and Zerato. While he's face-up on the field, if your fairy monster attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing damage, which is really cool. And then he has the quick effect of the Darklord effect. Oh, by the way, all the Darklords are quick effects. The Darklord effect is a quick effect. I thought I should mention that. It's not just like a do it whenever. No, it's a quick effect, so very nice. But yeah, Nurgle, he has 27, 25, so he is pretty good in terms of stats, and also the piercing does come up, especially when we were playing, like, doing underdog testing. I would very much want to put Nurgle on the board, because there was a lot of times where my opponents would special summon a bunch of stuff in defense. So having Nurgle was really nice. Next up is Tetsucoplea. This is a really cool one. This is one of my favorites because I really like the Aztec and Mayan themes. Just in general, I really like that kind of style. And Tetsucoplea is very clearly a kind of Aztec or Mayan deity, and he's super cool. But his effect is, if a Darklord monster you control will be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can discard this card instead. And then he has the Darklord effect. You can only special summon him, blah, 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 blah. So yeah, So he can do the copy effect. Really cool. 28-21. Super cool card and very useful. Next up, we have one of the last high-level Darklord that we're playing, and that is Darklord Morningstar. I actually just ran over to a buddy's house to pick this up because I could not find one. But yeah, Darklord Morningstar is really interesting, and now with the Darklord link, he becomes a, like, invaluable piece. So his effect is, cannot be special summoned. If this card is tribute summoned, you can special summon Darklord monsters from your hand and or deck up to the number of effect monsters your opponent controls. While you control another Darklord monster, your opponent cannot target this card with card effects. Once per turn, you can send cards from the top of your deck to the graveyard up to the number of, equal to the number of Darklord monsters on the field, and if you do, gain 500 for each Darklord card sent by this effect. He has 3k. He's a level, looks like a level 10 or a level 11. But yeah, super cool card, and being able to just ban it, with Condemned Darklord, being able to just banish the 2 Darklords from your grave to normal summon this is super useful. And also the life point gain is really nice, as well as being able to spam out a whole another amount, because it's not until you have the same, it's up to the amount your opponent controls. So like if you have 2 monsters and your opponent has 2 monsters, you get to special summon 2 more Darklords. It's really, really nice. And Morningstar definitely has started putting in work now that I have Condemned Darklord. So really, really nice card there. Another reason we play him is for another card, but we'll talk about that later. Next up, we have the normal summonable Darklords, which is Ukabak, and unfortunately 2 of mine are actually damaged because the guy who sent them to me glued them together when he mailed them, but I needed them for a video, and I've just never decided to replace them. But anyway, Ukabak says, if this card is normal or special summoned, you can send 1 Darklord card from deck to grave. You can only use this effect once per turn. He's 700, 1000, and there's a couple of different reasons that we play him. One is because he is the normal summon Darklord. He's one of the 2 that we play. But also, another reason we play him is because of Indulged Darklord. So Indulged Darklord is the other normal summon of the deck, and what Indulged does, it says, if this card is normal or special, take 2 Darklord monsters from your hand or deck with different levels, except Indulged, special summon one of them to your opponent's field in defense, and add the other to your hand. Also, you can't activate monster effects for this turn except fairies. You can only use Indulged Darklord once per turn. Now, initially that sounds pretty bad, but there is a Darklord trap that lets you snatch steal a monster. So one of the ways that I've kind of gotten around this is to normal summon this, give your opponent Ukabak, so that way, first of all, he's useless. And then second, then you add something like Ixchel, you start digging through your deck with Ixchel, and then you're able to eventually steal this card back using Darklord enchantment, link it away with these 2, and get condemned. But again, that's just something you can do. But also searching an Ixchel is very useful, and the main reason, another reason that we're playing this, like I said, is just to give it to our opponent, which isn't the greatest, but if you're going second, it's fine, because you can just run it over and punch through it with Nurgle. It only has 1000 defense. That's it for the Darklord monsters. We are playing one more monster, but it's a hand trap, and that is, of course, Ash Blossom. We're playing 3 Ash. So that is it for the monsters. Moving into the spells and traps, we'll start with the spells, obviously. We are playing 3 Banishment of the Darklord. This is the Darklord Rhoda, and this adds any Darklord card from deck to hand. You can only activate 1 per turn. All of the Darklord spells and traps are hard once per turns, but we get around that by having the copy effect on all of the Darklords, the Darklord effect. So yeah, this searches any Darklord card. Pretty amazing. Very, very cool. Then we play 3. I mentioned this earlier. There is a Darklord Monster Reborn. Special summon 1 Darklord from your graveyard in defense position. You can only use Darklord Contact once per turn, but again, we get around this. And that's Nastin climbing the stairways, presumably to go wherever the Solemn cards are. But yeah. And then, because the entire deck is dark, we're playing 3 Allure. This is to help us dig through our deck a little bit more. If you want to, you can also play Trade-In, but I found that Allure just works a little better than Trade-In, mainly because this hits more stuff, and Trade-In is only for level 8s. Then, another card that's Darklord themes, Forbidden Droplet. Again, there's Nastin, there's Darklord, Condemned Darklord right there. But Forbidden Droplet, I'm playing 2 of this just because if you want to play Forbidden Chalice, you can just play Chalice over this. I actually think Chalice might be better in this deck, especially with strategies like this where you either want stuff in your hand, but because we can reuse sorry, all the spells and traps, and there's a bunch of ways to get the guys out of the graveyard, and we kind of want our stuff in the graveyard to reborn it. I definitely think Droplet is fine in this. But again, like I said, I'm only playing this because I have it. If you don't have this, Chalice works just fine. Imperm works just fine. Same thing with Crossout. If you don't have Crossouts, you can play something else. But I'm playing Crossout just to stop like Ash Blossoms, essentially, because drawing in this deck is really important. So that is it for the spells. That's it for the spells. Moving into the traps. Set those off. So Darklords actually have their own infinite impermanence, which is pretty cool. They have the Sanctified Darklord. So all the Darklord traps do have the same cost, but whenever you use the Darklord effect to copy their effects, you don't have to pay cost. Instead, you just pay the 1,000 life points. So what this says, so the cost on all of the Darklord traps is send a Darklord monster from hand or face up field to the grave. And because the cost is a send to grave, if something like Dimensional Fissure is on board or D-Shifter is in play, you can't activate these if they're set, but if they're in the graveyard and you have a Darklord on field, you can copy their effect and still resolve them, which is really, really nice. So they have kind of a trick to get around stuff like that if you're able to get these in the graveyard quick enough. But Sanctified, you send a Darklord from hand or face up field to the grave, negate the effects of one effect monster on the field until the end of this turn, and if you do, gain life points equal to its attack. You can only activate one Sanctified per turn. I would play 3 of this, but I don't have 3. I remember when this came out and I just couldn't get the third one. Is this also from Residus? No, this one's from Flames of Destruction. But yeah, so but Sanctified is amazing, and if you have 3, I definitely recommend playing 3. And right here is kind of the alternate to Forbidden Droplet, where you have the solemn guy pouring a cup onto Nastin, whereas in Forbidden Droplet you have Condemned Darklord pouring a cup onto Nastin, so it's kind of cool. Then we have Darklord Rebellion. This is the same cost on it, but this one then says you can. Where is it? Where's the effect here? Send a Darklord, destroy 1 card on the field. There it is. Yeah, you can only activate 1 per turn. I was like, I remember this one just being a pop, but yeah, so it just pops anything. 2 of these, very nice. Here's the card I was talking about, Darklord Enchantment. Darklord Enchantment lets you do the thing where you send a Darklord from face up field or from hand to grave, and then it lets you take control of 1 monster your opponent controls until the end of the turn. So very useful there. Next up, we have the last Darklord trap that we're playing. You can play, now if you want to, before we get into the extract, I'm not playing Vert. If you want to, you can play Greater Polymerization and Vert instead of this and do kind of the same thing. Because you're already paying a ton of life points in this deck, I like playing the Uprising, just because it's 1,000 points cheaper. But what this says, it says send 1 Darklord from your hand or face up field to the graveyard. Fusion summon 1 dark fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as fusion materials. Then you can gain life point equal to the original attack of the monster sent to the graveyard to activate this card. You can only activate 1 Uprising once per turn. Now, the thing is, because the Darklord fusion requires 3 materials, you're almost never activating this from the field. You're basically always dumping it to the grave and then shuffling it back into the deck off the Darklord effects. So that whole gain health equal to its equal to the discarded monster's attack points almost never comes up. But yeah, 1 of these just because we can utilize it in this strategy. And that is it. That's it for the main deck. Moving into the extra, I am like a lot of the decks that I show off where they're kind of lower, I guess not lower class, but lower tier decks, like Darklords. It's not a full extra deck, it's just a few cards that I think are important for the strategy and I think help the strategy out a lot. So like I said, you should play rank 8, specifically Dingirsu would be really useful, Underworld Goddess, IP Masquerena, etc., etc. Play whatever you want in this extra deck, these are just what I suggest. Now I'm only playing 1 of each of these because I only have 1 of each, and this is the first Darklord and Condemned Darklord. Both of these are really cool cards for the strategy. Starting us off with the first Darklord, he is a level 12 Dark Fairy Fusion, and it says it needs 3 Dark Fairies to fusion summon it. So, like I said, that's why you're almost never setting Uprising. You're almost always dumping it to the grave and reusing it. And then it says your opponent can't target fairy monsters you control with card effects. You can only use one of the following effects of the first Darklord once per turn, and only once that turn. The first bullet point is if this card was fusion summoned using Morningstar as material, you can destroy all cards the opponent controls. That's really cool. That's another reason we're playing Morningstar, is to fusion summon into this for the nuke, but there's a lot of times where you don't get that. Then its other effect is, during the main phase, quick effect, pay 1,000 life points, special summon one fairy monster from your hand or graveyard in defense position. Now, I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure if this summons Superbia, Superbia gets its effect. I'm almost certain of it, but I 100% can't clarify that. But it is really cool that it can summon back one of its materials. It does really suck that it summons them in defense position. Like, that is kind of terrible. But if you summon back Nurgle, you have a 4K Piercer, which is really, really cool. And he can't be targeted by card effects, which is really nice. Then we have the Condemned Darklord, which has 1,600 linked. It's a 1,600 link 2. It needs 2 fairies to link summon it. And it says you can tribute fairy monsters that require 2 tributes by banishing 2 monsters from your graveyard instead of tributing. It is still treated as a tribute summon. So that's what's really good about this card with Morningstar. This card makes Morningstar playable. And on top of that, it says you can discard 1 card, take a Darklord monster from your deck, and either add it to your hand or send it to the graveyard. You can only use each effect of Condemned Darklord once per turn. And it says once per turn during the end phase, you gain 500 life points for each fairy on the field. So that's really nice, helps you get some health back, because this deck does pay a lot of life points. But the main thing that this does is not only let you put Morningstar on the board easier, it searches Morningstar as well, or any Darklord you want. So that's really nice. And on top of this one gaining you health, so does Morningstar. So they kind of work in conjunction. I would recommend playing 2 of this. I still think 1 of this is fine, unless you're playing like a Dogmatica Punishment build of this, because I'm pretty sure you could if you really wanted to play some Dogmatica Punishments, because this is a 4K guy, and you could just dump it to the graveyard and then banish it later off of this or whatever you need to. Then this is just various links that I added to it. Boral Sword, Appaloosa, Unicorn. Wee Witch is really nice because it's a generic Dark Link and it buffs all your Darklords by 500, so it makes them over 3K for a lot of them. Cerberus, Phoenix, and BLS. This deck is full of high-level monsters. We're able to summon a lot of high-level monsters really quickly, so BLS is really useful in this strategy. He's pretty cool. But yeah, that's it. This is only a 9-card extra deck. Like I said, I'd play probably 1 more of this. And you could also play IP, Underworld Goddess, Avermax if you really wanted to. Dingirsu is something I do recommend the rank for as far as rank 8s go. So yeah, lots of stuff that you can do with this deck, lots of stuff that you can play with this strategy. And yeah, I hope you guys like this profile. It's been a hot minute since we talked about Darklord. Also, don't forget to subscribe. Almost forgot. Don't forget to do that. Subscribe and comment and all that good stuff. But yeah, Darklord's really cool strategy, really cool deck, and has a really nice aesthetic to it as well. Like these cards look awesome, and also they're pretty unique with the Dark Fairy typing. That's not something you see every day. And yeah, and along with that copy effect thing, where the whole archetype is kind of focused on it, that's really nice as well. But yeah, let me know what you thought about this deck in the comments below, and as always, I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching.